Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today we're reacting to what is Nyaya and Vaisesika philosophy. So these are the two of the six Hindu philosophies, two of which that did not make it. There's actually a third one, but I don't know why he grouped these two together. I don't know if this video is good or not. I'm hoping it is, that it explains it very well. I hope to go through all of them actually. I did kind of skim through it to kind of see and hope that it was good, and it seems like it's good. And I think the reason why these two are grouped together is because they're very similar. I did kind of Google them a little bit, so I have very tiny insight. I didn't try to research too much. So let's go and get started.
Namaste everyone, this is Vishwa and this is a continuation of the Indian philosophy in a little bit more detail. So this will be a three-part series video in which I will take two philosophies at a time.
Okay, here we go. Here it is. Realism and pluralism, rationalism and dualism. Realism and ritualism, dualism and non. Oh, great! I think I picked a good video. So I definitely want to go to the next two and then the last two. So according to the last video that I watched, the first three, 1, 2, and 3, didn't make it didn't survive. Oh yeah, I forgot. You know, BC goes in reverse. Right? Yeah. So Samkhya, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, is the oldest one? I figured it'd be from 1 on down, but then again, I don't know. Okay, well anyways, I can't wait to watch these other two videos.
Because two of them go together and I will talk about each of them individually and then I will talk about their differences, similarity and their common practices, so that you have a better understanding that how these philosophies work together.
Sorry, I have to pause it because I don't know if he's going to swap out core philosophy, creation, world, creator, God, individual, soul, spirit, suffering, and liberation from suffering. Turn off CC real quick. Recommended practices.
Together, you will be surprised that their approaches may be different, their analysis may be different, but the kind of practices they offer are very common in nature. But before I go into the philosophy, I want to talk about three things. One is the literature. So all of the philosophies are based on sutra literature. And I will talk about what are the rules of the sutras. And then second thing is about the proofs. To establish a philosophy, you need to provide a valid proof. And they are 6 in numbers, which I will also talk about that. And then the third thing is the common approach. What kind of common question or common issues they address and what kind of answer they produce. So this will be my framework to approach to these main 6 Indian philosophies, in which yoga is the one which I am more inclined, and we'll see how the yoga brings information from different philosophy as well. So thank you. Let me first share with you the basic information and the common approach I have used across all the 6 philosophies for a better understanding. So first of all, we have to understand that all these 6 philosophies follow sutra literature, and the sutras has certain rules, and they are 4 in numbers. First of all, the sutra should contain minimum number of letters. Second, the meaning should be very clear without any doubt. Third, it must contain the essence of the subject. And fourth, it should reflect all aspects of the same.
That's really odd to say consistent of a minimum number of letters. That's weird to have that requirement, any minimum or maximum, because you just want to be able to explain things. whether that requires less or more letters. Now, without doubt as regards to the meaning, that is a must. Without doubt as regard to the meaning, yes. I will say, I remember learning about the Constitution, where the founding fathers of America left it kind of vague so that the rules can kind of expand through the future, because they can't predict everything, so they have to leave room in the rules to account for things they cannot foresee. But also at the same time, that the vagueness kind of leaves things into interpretation. Like in America, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, is kind of questioned. Like, how much can you bear arms? How much of it you can buy legally, or that should be reserved for the government state, where the people cannot own, or can the people own everything that the federal government's army can own? But yeah, that's the problem with vagueness. But with the vagueness, the rules itself can be kind of expanded upon. So basically, I guess the forefathers kind of wanted us to, while it being vague, we can kind of define it, sculpt it in a way that will work with us in the future. But again, it being vague means it can be sculpted in any way you want. But if it is without doubt as regard to the meaning, I'm assuming it means that when you define something, it cannot be interpreted as any other thing. And I do like that, because that means that if the Second Amendment is saying you have the right to bear arms, and that means anything that the government has you can have, then there is no question as to what you can own and cannot own. Although it can be kind of scary. Must contain the essence of the subject. I mean, I kind of get it, but the first one I don't quite understand. Minimum number of letters. I mean, I guess they want you to make sure that you put in enough things in the rules. With that second one, completely agree. Third one, must contain the essence of the subject. I mean, I get it. Can't. I guess maybe you can't just veer off subject. Reflect all aspects of the same. I don't quite understand that fourth one.
So for example, if I say the Yoga Sutra chapter 1, sutra number 1, which is one of the popular and well-known sutra, is called Atha Yoga Anusasanam. Now the discipline of yoga, or the teachings of the yoga, begins. Now this is small sutras can be explained in many different ways by different masters, and the different interpretation takes different view, and that's how you will see in some of the philosophy there are different sub schools within one school because of the interpretation. So now we'll wonder that how this philosophy provide the proof that whatever they are saying, how they conclude that they are right. So they have to produce proofs, and there are two kinds of proof. One is direct versus indirect. Indirect, it is direct perception. In indirect, there are 5 types. So there are overall total 6 means of proof, and they can use one or all of them. So in indirect, there are inference, comparison or analogy. Third is testimony or word. Fourth is postulation or presumption. And fifth is non-perception or non-existence. So these are the total 6 which are used to validate the logic or conclusion, whatever they are saying.
I like that. Actually, I do. Direct perception, cognition, inference, conclude based on previous observations. This is genuinely amazing. This is like a scientific method right here. Comparison, analogy, testimony, word, rely on past or present reliable text experts, postulations, derivations from circumstances, non-perceptions, cognitive proof using non-existence. Now that fifth one though, I like to hear how they would prove that one. Direct perception. So basically, that's personal experience. How you yourself perceive that everything else is based on, well, past or past. So previous observation, comparison to something else, generally in the past, maybe even present, relying on past or present reliable text expert. But even so, it's still I guess someone else's too. All right.
So now I'm going to talk about the topics which I'm going to cover. I'm going to take two philosophies at a time, talk about their basic nature of the philosophy, the key features of the philosophy, and the differences and similarity between them, and then try to find the answers of 5 questions. How this world was created. If so, who created it? And what is the nature of individual soul or spirit? Why do we suffer? And if there is any way to get out of the suffering? If so, what is the recommended practice according to that philosophy? And that's my approach.
I really like that. That's actually, it goes over a lot of things too. Creator of the world, who created the world, how are we, I'm guessing the individual spirit and soul deals with us. I guess what is our purpose maybe, or why are we individuals? And then suffering and liberation from suffering. That one I never really thought about until, again, my world history class, a world religion class, sorry, with Buddhism, where they're saying everything is suffering, which was a mind opener for me. And then the practices.
Let's go into the first philosophy, which is Nyaya and Vaisesika duo. So these two go together. So let's talk about the Nyaya philosophy first. The school of logic, which is the basic foundation of all other philosophies. So, Nyaya means rules, method, judgment, or justice, or the logic. That's why it is called school of logic. This is the foundation school for all Indian philosophy. The founder of this school was sage Gautama. Just to point it out that there was another famous sage called Maharishi Gautama. He was a different person. The Gautama wrote.
Sorry. I understand Gautama as Buddha, the famous Buddha. I don't remember his first name. Is this the Buddha? The Buddha? The famous Buddha? Because I know Buddha is a title. Is this Gautama Buddha? Or is Maharishi Gautama is the real Buddha?
Wrote Nyaya Sutra with 528 sutras around 550 BC, which became the foundation of this philosophical school. So Nyaya system considers 16 things for studying the reality. Because of the limited time, I'm going to cover the most important, the first 2. So the first one is the objects of true knowledge. Means these must be known for the liberation. The second is the valid source of knowledge. This school puts those as primary things, as how you can know and truly and correctly figure out that this is the true knowledge. The other things I will just mention it. There are rules and methods regarding each of these 16s, which includes doubt, as how you're gonna figure out this is a doubt, a correct doubt, or wrong doubt. Same way, aims, example, doctrine, constituent of inference, logic, valid, invalid logic, conclusion, how will you come to conclusion, argument, to discover the truth, that there are rules about that too. To argue just to win, how would you know that there is an argument is just happening because they want to just win this debate? And how to find this is a destructive criticism, how to know that this is apparent but not a valid reason, how to know what is unfair reply, how to know what is false analogy, and also what are the rules or the grounds of defeat if you're having a debate. So these are the 16 major things important for studying the reality in Nyaya philosophy. So, under this number 1 object of true knowledge, there are 12 objects of knowledge which must be known for the liberation. And these are the soul, suffering, freedom from suffering, the body, the 5 senses, object of the senses, cognition, mind, activity which relates to karma, results, rebirth, mental defect, for example, attachment and aversions. So if we know these 12 objects or 12 things, then we can be able to liberate ourselves. So now the second important thing is how to validate the knowledge. So Nyaya philosophy considers 4 valid sources: direct perception, inference, comparison, and testimony. These are the 4 out of the 6 I talked earlier. Now it also says that there are 4 invalid sources which cannot be considered, and that is memory, doubt, erroneous perception, hypothetical arguments.
Ooh, that is a problem. At least from my understanding, direct perception that deals with memory, though, and testimony deals with memory. Comparison deals with memory. Inference. From that, you have not heard that word used very often at all. But it's it sounds like all 4 of the valid sources come from the number 1 invalid sources, which is memory. Because if you directly perceive it, the second time passes, it becomes memory. It's no longer in the present. Therefore, it's in the past. Therefore, it's memory. Comparison. Well, you have to remember what you're comparing it to. Like the event I just saw is very similar to the event I saw last week. Comparison, or I guess you could kind of see like maybe 2 things in the present, and I guess maybe that doesn't necessarily deal with memory if it's happening right in front of you. Comparison. Testimony, that is definitely memory. Direct perception, I guess that can be memory and happening in front of you at the moment, because you are perceiving it as it is occurring currently in the present. I definitely need to look up inference. I've heard that word used once or twice in my life, but never really any others. So doubt, I mean, I guess just to say, oh, I doubt you're speaking correctly. Erroneous perception. I guess when you're just kind of, how do I say, what's the word? Like kind of making up things, like maybe over exaggerating what's going on, and hypothetical arguments. Supposedly, I'm guessing along those lines. That's interesting. Memory, though. Testimony is memory. Comparison can be memory. Direct perception can be memory. I'm sorry. Number 2, I've only heard that word used very few times, so I definitely need to Google that.
So these are the main features which I just covered quickly. It's very limited time to go into each of them in detail. So now let's focus on Vaisesika philosophy, that is the school of atomistic pluralism. So let's see what is this atomistic pluralism. So the name of this school is Vaisesika because it studies Vishesha or uniqueness as an aspect of the reality. It is also famous for the atomic theory principle and pluralistic realism. The founder of this philosophy was Sage Kanad. He wrote a text called Vaisesika Sutra containing 374 sutras around 600 BC. So Vaisesika philosophy covers 7 categories of reality which must be known in order to understand the whole universe. They are substance, quality, action, generality, uniqueness. This is the uniqueness based on the Vaisesika name came from Vishesha. Then 6th is inherence, and the last one is non-existence. The quality here in Sanskrit is also called guna. This guna is different than Sankhya's philosophy word guna, because here each substance has its own quality and action. So for the discussion, I'm going to pick the top 2 categories to discuss. The first one is substance and second is the quality. So according to Vaisesika philosophy, there are 9 substances which must be known, and they are earth, water, fire, air, space, time, direction, soul, and mind. Soul are of 2 types. One is the individual soul, which are infinite in number, and the other one is the only one, which is Supreme Soul or God. Now the second category is called quality.
My gosh, it's like a tree where you have like, was it the 6 schools? Then within the 6 schools you have 6 or 7 qualities, and underneath those 6 or 7 qualities are 13 additional qualities, and underneath those 13 qualities is like 17 more. Good Lord, that is a lot. If you want to study all 6 schools, that is, or even just one.
And as per Vaisesika philosophy, there are 24 qualities of each substance. So here we have the list of 24 quality, which is color, taste, smell, touch, sound, number, uniqueness, magnitude, pleasure, pain, desire, aversion, union, separation, remoteness, nearness, cognition, effort, heaviness, fluidity, viscosity, tendency, virtue, and non-virtue. So these qualities are used. It's like, we can further go in other details, but it's like the Vaisesika has become physics and chemistry to analyze every aspect of this substance.
But how do you get virtue and non-virtue? And then nearness? Like, a lot of this doesn't really... I mean, color I get, taste, smell, touch, sound, number. Not sure what I mean by number. Uniqueness, magnitude, pleasure, pain, desire, aversion. That's very strange to have as a quality. To just a very odd to have. Union, separation, remoteness, nearness, cognition, effort. I wonder if he's going to explain how do you use all of these to identify, unless it's like you don't have to use them all. Maybe it's that. Okay, that makes sense then. If there are 24 qualities on something, but not necessarily that all 24 applies. That would make sense. It's weird to have a rock to have a virtue. Well, it does have a heaviness. I don't know, fluidity. If it's melted, it can be fluid. I don't know if well, I guess rock can be pain or pleasure, and some people do desire rocks. Those who collect rocks.
So let's talk about the most famous theory of Vaisesika theory, which is called atomic theory. So Vaisesika says the atoms are the smallest particle of the universe. However, the modern science and Vaisesika differs in their approach. The modern science says that the movement of the atoms are governed by the mechanical laws, but Vaisesika says that the movement of atoms are governed by the supreme order or the God based on the individual soul's karmas. So these were the main features of Nyaya and Vaisesika philosophy. Now I'm going to talk about the differences and similarity between these philosophies. So, differences. Nyaya maintains that all the reality is comprehended by 16 categories, but Vaisesika only recognizes 7 of the reality. Nyaya accepts 4 independent sources of knowledge, but Vaisesika accepts only first 2, direct perception and inference. Nyaya dives more on the logical side, however Vaisesika uses the logic to dive deeper on atomic level to find the uniqueness. The rest of the philosophy are very similar, thus they are bundled together. So now I will talk about the similarity between these two. The first, both study reality. The second, both accept the same theory of creation and existence of God, which you will see further down in next slides. Third, both refutes the Sankhya theory of causation. Now you will wonder, what is this theory? I will cover this in the Sankhya philosophy and then you will get an idea what it is. Fourth is both wants attainment of liberation from suffering and rebirth. So they have a common idea about it. Both suggest this liberation is only through the true knowledge. So both focuses on Jnana Yoga, means the liberation through true knowledge.
Well, so far, that's one thing I've heard a lot of the gurus, yogis now is liberation is through knowledge. That's something that's
So
still
now I'm
consistent with
going
the
to
teachings
focus
today.
on those 5 big questions and their answers. First is about the creation of the world. So according to Nyaya and Vaisesika philosophy, the physical world is product of those 9 things, which includes physical atoms, substance and non-physical entity. 5 elements, as you know: earth, water, fire, air and space. And 4 non-physical entities are time, direction, mind and soul. They say that God creates this world, and the creation simply means the ordering of the eternal substances which are coexistence with God to form into moral world shaped according to the karmas of individual soul. So God creates everything according to individual karma. So second question was about the creator or God. So both schools accept that God as the ultimate cause of the creation, maintenance and destruction of the world. These 3 stages are cyclic in nature and happens on the will of God, and God possesses all the 6 perfections. God is the first efficient cause and not its material cause. God is the moral governor of the world, giving awards to meritorious and punishing the wicked one. One of the most important reasons out of 10 reasons it gives in the theory for the existence of God, it says that there must be a supremely intelligent agent behind the creation, wherein almost all the components are inert and the souls are of the very limited knowledge and power. So basically there must be something beyond these individual souls who has the higher intelligence to take care of this world.
That that is the so far. I do believe the Abrahamic religions believe in that there must be someone superior to us that has created all these worlds, and then but the thing that I guess kind of gets to me is the fact that, you know, if God created us, who created God kind of deal. I know Osho talked about this. And my problem is the fact that I believe Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of uses the same explanation. Who created the universe? While scientists don't know. And I think they kind of try to avoid that question, I think, just because they don't know it. And, if you ask them that question, they just don't know it. Because they don't want to, I guess they don't want to give a wrong answer because they don't have one. But there was one that was given out. It said, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson said this, if you had to answer that the universe has always existed, which is the same logic that religious people use for gods. If the universe has always existed, God has always existed, then they both use the same logic there. Which then I guess both can be valid at that point. But it is kind of interesting to think about how we came about, how we came into existence. It is I think about it and it's just fascinating. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just the sheer fact that how did we come to existence? How did atoms come to existence? Was there nothing before us? It's just so, for me, it is just so mind-blowing to think how everything came into existence and what was before existence. It's weird to say that out of nothing came something. It is, to me, that's just crazy. I don't know how I got into that track. Let's continue on here.
So now the third question is about the individual soul. According to both theories or both philosophies, individual souls are infinite in number. They are eternal and indestructible. Consciousness is not intrinsic to them, but an attribute due to association with the mind, which is considered atomic in size. So individual jiva or the soul and consciousness doesn't come inherently with it. It comes because of the mind. That's what this philosophy says. And the individual souls themselves are all pervading and gets all its experience when its mind is related to the outside world through the sense organ. The last and important question was about liberation and suffering. And both schools say that the liberation is only by acquiring true knowledge. And the cause of our suffering is because of ignorance. So true knowledge is the one that you are the spirit, distinct from the body and the mind, as also the senses. So true knowledge is experienced and acquired by threefold practice, which I'm going to discuss next.
Okay. Both schools says that ignorance is the cause of suffering. For me, I agree with that for sure. Not necessarily all the time. You can not be ignorant and still suffer for sure, but definitely ignorance is definitely causes a lot of suffering in the world. And this is why I have this kind of saying to understand it, understand what the problem is. And there's two things you can do. I keep repeating this. There's two things you can do with the problem. Either you can't do anything about it, or you can do something about it. If you can't do anything about it, then don't worry about it, because there's nothing you can do about it. Worrying about it's not going to change anything. You know you can't do anything about it, so it's easy to say just don't worry about it, but that is the truth though. If you can do something about it, there's two things you can do there. You can either not do anything about it, or you can do something about it. If you choose not to do anything about it, then again, stop worrying about it, because you decided that I'm not going to do anything about it. So you made the decision not to do anything about it, then don't worry about it. If you can do something about it, well, then work towards that solution. Work towards that solution to your problem. And again, don't worry about it because you're working towards a solution. And ignorance in this matter is the fact that in my method, you don't necessarily have to know everything, because there are finer details that you can know about the problem, which is ignorance. But of course, understanding as much as you can to find the best solution. I guess that's my halfway kind of solution, because I don't think you'll ever necessarily know all about the problem. You will be ignorant of some things, but for the best knowledge that you know about the problem, try to solve it the best way you can. Liberation is only possible by acquiring true knowledge. I can't say much for that. I mean, acquiring knowledge in general is liberating for sure. True knowledge is you are the spirit distinct from the body. Okay, there we go. Ooh, that one. This is spirit distinct from the body, and the mind is also the senses. This is talking about the Turiya. And this is, I don't know if it's necessarily non-duality, but generally speaking, this is non-duality, where you are part of the bigger consciousness. The true knowledge is experienced and acquired by threefold practice. Okay, and he hasn't gotten to that part yet. I'm still in the kind of duality phase, but I still want to understand more of the non-duality as well. I gotta bring my arguments about duality for this discussion.
So now let's come to the practice which Nyaya and Vaisesika philosophy both uses it. This is the philosophy which actually introduces the steps of Jnana Yoga. So both Nyaya and Vaisesika philosophy suggest threefold practice for liberation. First is listening and understanding spiritual knowledge. Second, reflecting on gained knowledge and establishing the firmness in mind. And then meditating on the soul based on the reflection.
Okay, so how I understood this, actually, listening and understanding, absolutely. You should definitely hear out people's arguments as much as you can, so that you don't confuse on what they don't confuse what they're saying. And it's like what Swami was talking about, how the duality was I'm sorry, I forgot their names, but the duality was making an argument against the non-duality, and he repeated everything. It's like, so you mean this, you mean this, you mean this is what you mean. And the non-duality is like, yeah, you understood it. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Reflect and gain the knowledge and establish the firmness in the mind. To me, in this one is making arguments, counter arguments in your mind, attack your own arguments, find ways to destroy your arguments or to support your arguments, because by just trying to destroy your argument, you're also supporting your argument, because whatever you use cannot be used against your argument anymore, because the destroyer of that argument got destroyed itself. And meditate on the soul based on reflection. From my understanding of this is to, well, continue to think about it. I guess that's how I understood it, but hopefully it goes in a little bit deeper on this. I understand the first one. You definitely want to listen to them. Understand spiritual knowledge, reflecting again on knowledge. I understood it as in kind of like questioning it, meditation, the soul, and to continue to think about it, because you won't necessarily think of every possible argument, in the first hour of hearing it. That definitely doesn't work for me. I generally, even a few days later, I think it's like, oh, I forgot about that one. I forgot about that argument, or forgot I could say this too. So Sarvana, Manana, and Nididhyasana is the 3 steps process. This is a Jnana Yoga practice. So this concludes the information about Nyaya and Vaisesika philosophy on a very high level. My next talk will be on Sankhya and Yoga philosophy, which is the core foundation of many other philosophies. So I hope you join me in the next session on Sankhya and Yoga philosophy. Thank you very much. So that sums up the Nyaya and Vaisesika philosophy. I hope you had some useful information from it and you enjoyed. And if you like,
Please do share and comment. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Okay, I wonder why it didn't survive. At least according to that one graph. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. I am terrible. Actually, hold on. I can kind of look it up right here. Oh no, actually, Six Schools of Hindu Philosophy. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. But he talked about how the first three didn't survive. I wonder why though. Maybe it did survive, but just the arguments or philosophies of it and was adapted into the other philosophies. Maybe it survived that way. I still it seems really good and things that could be used today. So that's why I was kind of questioning how it didn't survive. Well, anyways, I'm hoping to watch the other ones, the other two, which is Samkhya and Yoga, and Mimamsa Vedanta. Anyways, that's my reaction to what is Nyaya. I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm sorry. Vaisesika philosophy. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.